The first ascent's not too bad, and then it gets really quite steep. You've got to walk, as you can see.
You've got the battle going up, but you just put that out of your mind. You just concentrate on the person in front, get to the top, take your brain out. Go.
Come on, number 9, well done.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the Adventure Show. This month we've come to just south of Edinburgh for a very special event, the Carnethy 5.
This is a gruelling hill race with 2,500 feet of ascent over 5 of the Pentland's largest hills.
And the best thing about it is Desiree's doing this for the Adventure Show team.
Hang on a minute, I thought you were doing it.
No, you're doing it.
No, I don't think so.
I think you are.
Oh.
You are. Tell you what, toss for it, okay? Toss it. I've got a coin in my hand here, heads or tails.
Okay, heads.
Okay. I'm sure that has been tails. You're on it. Good luck.
Unbelievable.
That was a close call, and we'll be finding out how Deziree gets on later. Also in this month's Adventure Show, I'll be discovering what it takes to prepare for a race like this. We'll be finding out why someone who's eligible for a bus pass is still undertaking extreme ski mountaineering. And Cameron McNeish, romantic that he is, makes an ascent of Scotland's mystic mountain. But first, to the Carnethy 5.
Hello.
And Desiree's big race.
It's Deziree Wilson.
Wilson?
Yeah.
You have got number 138, so I think that's a lucky one.
Desiree, a couple of hours before the start, what's your final strategy?
Well, just bought some nice new shoes with some good studs in them, so hopefully that'll help me on the downhill sections in all the snow, and just drink lots of coffee, I think. That seems to be the strategy that works best for me, so...
Really?
Yeah.
So get
coffee.
caffeined up.
Yeah.
Are you going to look at someone and sort of who looks kind of similar to you fitness-wise and think, well, I'll stick with them, or what?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this competition feels really like a competition with myself. I've set myself a target of about an hour and a half, and I'd like to be in sort of the top 250, say.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're wearing a crash helmet.
And I heard that you're carrying my bag for me as well.
I am.
The whole way round.
If I can have a Land Rover to go round with you. So at the end, I'll be standing waiting with a cup of tea for myself.
I love the moral support I get.
I'll be really supportive. No, really, I'll be thinking of you all the way around, really.
Yeah, laughing.
The 5 summits in today's race that make up the Carnethy 5 in the Pentland Hills are all less than 10 miles southwest of Edinburgh. This race is one of the oldest in Scotland. It's also one of the most popular, and the 550 places on offer are snapped up quickly. It's the middle of February and the hills are covered in snow, but that doesn't seem to be any deterrent to determined runners.
Freedom! All week I've been looking at the snow going, oh come on, it's going to melt, and it's just got more snow or frozen, and I thought it's going to be quite tough.
I think it's fresh and it'll be fun. I suspect the times will be slightly slower today, but then this is the 39th year and we've had much worse.
Steep up, steep downs, there's some very rough descents. Yeah, it's definitely a test.
The hard bit is the up bit, followed by the down bit.
My bum will never be warm again.
There's some people who've done this race loads of times and know what they let themselves in for, but there's plenty of people. Every year we'll get a lot of newcomers to the race, and it'll be quite a shock to the system, I think.
Yeah, first time. Yeah, it's a hard one.
Absolutely terrified, yeah. But I mean, I suppose that's part of the fun, doing something that is out of your normal comfort zone. This isn't something I would normally do. I'll have a crack at it and see how I get on.
This week somebody took 8 minutes to get from the top of Carnethy down to the gate, so it's normally 2 or 3 minutes, so I think that'll really slow everybody up, but hopefully they should have beaten a nice path for me by the time I get here.
It's an excuse for people who are as slow as me to have a walk on the uphills and use gravity with my extra girth to get me back down.
I'm at compass, full body cover.
Waterproof bottoms, hat
Great.
gloves.
Great, thanks.
Or hat gloves.
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much, I'll try.
I'm so pleased it's not me getting ready, but it seems like everyone's still trying to get me to take part. I've no idea why I'm part of this team, but... been snowing, for goodness sake. Why are you doing this?
It's a malt-cider at the end. That's what brings us here, yeah.
It was home baking, but we've kind of progressed. Yeah. An alcoholic club with a running club.
So what sort of time are you hoping for today?
I don't know. I think anything inside an hour and a half I would be happy with.
Under an hour and a half would be brilliant, yeah. But we'll see.
I think about 75 minutes maybe, I'm not really sure.
Maybe an hour and 15 minutes, hopefully.
I usually count myself from how far I am from the back.
I'm not one of the elite ones, but even just doing it to me is important.
Now you've seen what you're going up.
Yeah.
You can see the course now.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've actually seen it. Is
Yeah.
that filling you full of excitement or fear?
Well, it's good to be able to see it because I thought it would be all shrouded in clouds. It looks quite a long way, and it also looks really high as well.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping I'm not so far behind the last person
You
that I can't
won't
just
be.
follow whoever's in front of me.
Now, here's the thing. You said you were going to fill yourself full of coffee before the start.
Yeah. Well, there's no tea and coffee, but what I did manage to do was to scam a teaspoonful of freeze-dried coffee from that tent over there, and I put it in my water bottle and filled
So
it
you
with
got
cold
cold coffee in
water.
your water bottle?
Yeah, so I've just drunk that. So that's commitment to the cause. Isn't
That
it?
is commitment. That's taking one for the team. Oh,
It was
goodness.
really disgusting.
Right, lads, line up. Referee.
So I need us to start on time before the caffeine wears off.
And there we go, the Carnethy 550 competitors racing 6 miles, climbing 2,500 feet. It's all ahead of them now. The fastest can expect to do it around about 50 minutes in these conditions, maybe 50 minutes towards an hour. The slowest in excess of 2.5 hours. And what a trek ahead of them there is. Starts off just near the Silverburn village. Heads up onto the first hill in the Pentland, Scald Law, 1,899 feet, followed by South Black Hill, then over onto the East Kip, staying quite high, then the West Kip, then a huge drop down to the Howe, and then back up to Carnethy Hill, and then back down to the bottom. Legs weary, everything sore, everything hurting. Some of the backmarkers walking already, but only 200 yards into the race and already the front runners are well ahead. Getting the legs nice and warm. There's a lot hanging about before the start. Off they go. A gruelling 6 mile race ahead of them. And as the pack makes its way towards the first hill, Desiree's in the middle of a whole group of runners. Trust me, she is in there somewhere. And already the front runners are up on the first ascent. This is a good place to find out just how fit you are. Get the legs nice and warm, get the body nice and warm, get the lungs working. And you know if you put enough work in during the winter months at this point as it starts to get steep. But the ascents aren't the only problem facing the runners. The snow cover this year means the ground's slippery and the going more strenuous than ever.
It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be slippy, it's going to be dangerous. It's just going to be fantastic, and that's what's so different about it. It's a great sport because nothing's ever the same.
Just it's the here and now. I'm here, I'm alive, I'm running. How do I feel? You know, sometimes you feel pretty rubbish. You know, it's hard, but you know, most of the time it's just like it's sort of just pushing forward, thinking of getting, you know, getting to the next peak, or the next, you know, the next moment really.
People have this impression that we run up and down all the hills. We don't. You run where you can run and you walk quick. If you can walk quick up a hill, you'll do well in hill running.
The hardest bit is at the start because there's a lot of deep heather and the runners actually go through a heather trod. Now, no matter how fit you are, if you get caught in the middle there and you're behind slower runners, the energy expenditure to actually get out and try and pass them, it's just not worth it. You end up blowing up too early. Well, hopefully we can, if you can get your studs through to the ground, it won't be so slippy, but as Cammy says, it's quite deep heather underneath, so you can't really see what's on the ground, and obviously you've got a cover in the snow, so it's going to be quite treacherous. Best cure for a hangover ever.
It is quite a challenge getting up there. It can be quite tough sometimes, but you just sort of concentrate on the next step in front of you, and suddenly you're in a different place and you're just sort of away from things that maybe bother you in normal everyday life. It's a sense of adventure. It's just good fun.
It's a great race over 5 hills, mix of terrain, heather, tussocks, steep climb up the gully towards the back, and it's all in under an hour.
Hi Jeremy!
I think it's perfect running conditions for the kilt this year. It was a prize of bottle of whisky for the first finisher in the kilt, and the current record is held by a Welshman, so the Scots have got to even the balance.
Right now we're going to leave our racers and Deziree, of course, as they pound towards the first of their 5 Pentland summits, and join our own mountain guru Cameron McNeish, who's enjoying the Scottish hills at a slightly more sedate pace.
Its name has the ring of a war cry, and it's one of the most mystical mountains in Scotland. Every year, 20,000 people climb to its summit, and I'm going to climb it today. It's called Schiehallion. That translates as the fairy hill of the Caledonians, so why don't you come and join me? All around the flanks of Schiehallion, there's a lot of evidence of ancient settlements and cup and ring marks which go way back to prehistoric times. But even more surprising is the link between this mountain in Perthshire and the Holy Land, the link between Schiehallion and the Knights Templar and Freemasonry. And it's said that one of the very early chapters of Freemasonry was set up on Mount Moriah in the Kingdom of Judea. And that chapter was later reconstituted here on Schiehallion by none other than Robert the Bruce. It's got a nice wee viewpoint here, and that's Loch Tummel down there, but we've got a much better view of Loch Tummel and Loch Rannoch from higher up the hill. The Scottish charity, the John Muir Trust, bought Schiehallion at the end of the 90s, and one of the things they did almost immediately was improve the footpath that climbs up to the summit. The old path took a sort of line of least resistance right up the northeast flank of the hill, and it crossed great areas of peat and bog. But the John Muir Trust discovered a very old path which took a zigzag line up the nose of the East Ridge, and they improved that, and I think they've made a pretty good job of it, bearing in mind that this path has to sustain about 20,000 pairs of boots every year. So this path really does help. Running along below us here is the old road to the Isles. There's Loch Tummel, Loch Rannoch, and beyond it Loch Aber, although that's not a stretch of water but an actual district. I wonder if you remember the old song, "By Loch Tummel and Loch Rannoch and Loch Aber I will go, la 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 dum da da la la la, la da 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 la da lum da 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 dee da da." Woo! Quite a nice little poem was written in 1905 by a local minister, the Reverend John Sinclair, who lived down in Kinlochrannoch. And in this poem, he kind of hints at this relationship between Schiehallion and the Holy Land. If there be on earth a paradise where righteous souls in glory wait in trust, till the sweet resurrection of the just. Methinks that region round Schiehallion lies, and that good angels hovering over its cone impart to it that chaste and heavenly tone. I love to view Schiehallion all aglow, in blaze of beauty against the eastern sky, like a huge pyramid exalted high, o'er woodland fringing round its base below. The Bible tells of Hebrew mountains grand, where such great deeds were done in days of old, as render them more precious far than gold, in our conception of the Holy Land. But every soul that seeks the heavenly road may in Schiehallion too behold a mount of God. A mountain like Schiehallion is a kind of unlikely place to carry out scientific experiments. But in 1774, the Astronomer Royal, one Reverend Neville Maskelyne, came to Schiehallion to try and discover if the Earth had a dense core or a hollow core. I think the experiments discovered that Earth, in fact, had a dense core. But what was quite interesting from a hill walking perspective is that one of the surveyors on those experiments, one Charles Hutton, hit upon a way of joining up places of equal height. He actually discovered contour lines, those little brown lines that we hill walkers use so much today when we're out in the mountains. If you take a line of latitude between the most northern point in Scotland and the most southerly point, and a line of longitude connecting east and west, where the two lines cross over, you have the exact centre of Scotland, and that's right here on the summit of Schiehallion. Oh wow, it's wild. Oh, well, there's not much in the way of views today, I'm sorry about that. But just in case any of you are wondering where the name Fairy Hill of the Caledonians come from, just down below me here at the head of Glenmore, there's a little hill called Tom of Ora. And below that hill, there's a cave. And in the dark recesses of that cave, there is allegedly a door that leads to fairyland. But I tell you, it has to be a pretty tough fairy to live up here in these conditions. It's too tough for me, so I'm off. See you next time.
Last month on the Adventure Show, for the very first time, me and my skis left the groomed pistes behind and headed into the deep powder.
Hey!
Now on this kind of slopes, it's fine to have a tumble, or two, or even three. But I was taken into this terrain by someone who normally skis in areas where any mistakes could have disastrous results. Martin Burrows-Smith is regarded as the father of Scottish extreme skiing. During the 1970s and 80s, he pioneered numerous incredibly steep, narrow gully routes in this country, many of which have yet to be repeated.
The challenge is to do something which is difficult, but to do it well. And you get an awful lot of satisfaction from doing just that. There's nothing better, ski-wise, than to be somewhere really steep and exciting, but to feel good about what you're doing, to actually enjoy it. And feel that you're technically in control. It's a wonderful feeling.
At 61, Martin now qualifies for a bus pass, yet he still thrives on this extreme skiing. Martin now splits his year between Scotland and Switzerland, and the Alps is a playground that can be dangerous.
A lot of people have been killed in here. So you can imagine, you know, the steep drop-offs, they all go. They all go.
You are doing just one turn at a time, and desperately are you trying to control your speed. If you go too fast, you lose control. If you need too much width to do your turns in, you're going to crash into rock at the side. So you're very much trying to develop turns where you're more or less skiing within the foreline, within the length of the skis. That you need to have that sort of control over your speed as you go down. That's the way it must be. The case with Scotland is often you have to walk quite a long way, you have to climb to the top of the hill, And you know, very often, the very first turn that you do is your first skiing turn of the day. From being a walker for perhaps 3 hours, suddenly you've got to be a skier, and there might be a bit of a cornice at the top. You've got to jump over it, hop over it. Your form and technique has got to be, shall we say, spectacularly good right at the start of the descent. I started off in the Cairngorms, but suddenly realised that there were corries, mountains all over the Highlands which had appropriate gullies and descents and slopes which would be ideal for steep skiing. So I did find myself going all over the Highlands searching for the best lines to do, because it's wonderful as a skier or climber or whatever to be somewhere where you feel no one has been before. So to be stood on skis in places people had never been stood on before was great. Virtually all of them were on my own. Very occasionally I managed to get 1 or 2 people to come with me, but that was very rare. I felt as if I had to do all these, or as many descents as possible, because other people wanted to do them first. I was wrong. You know, no one else was really wanting to do them. I was very much on my own. And that meant that, well, I don't know, over a period of about 3 or 4 years, I guess I probably did some 60, 70 new descents throughout the Highlands. At the end of the day, it's very important that the skier is a mountaineer as well and a climber. You'd like to think you can always put an ice axe into the snow, put an ice screw into ice if that's what the case was, and attach yourself to it, and thereby you're stabilising the situation. You can then climb down or climb up, whatever the situation requires. I certainly don't want to stop doing it because I love it so much. If you stop coming out in the hills, it's like giving up.
Welcome back to the Carnethy 5, where the runners out there in the snow-covered Pentlands still have a long, long way to go. As the main pack head for the first summit, Scald Law, our own Desiree's in the thick of it.
Oh, that's absolutely exhausting. That's absolutely knackering. Really steep ascent. Can't talk anymore.
I just want to do this for myself, to be honest, to show myself that I can do it. So I'm not really interested in other people's times or how they're getting on. I'm just going to keep my head down, look at my feet and get on with it. I've got nothing to compare it to, so I have no idea how I'll do or how anybody else does or what sort of training regime they have or whether the type of training I've been doing is relevant or it's enough. I haven't seen a single person who doesn't look like a hill runner. There's some really fit, well-built looking people around here, girls and guys as well, so I think I've got my work cut out for me to try and keep up with this lot.
Desiree's holding her own. She's comfortably in the first half of the pack, and she's well ahead of the majority of the women racing here today.
You're doing great! Come on!
It gets really quite steep. You've got to walk, as you can see, and I'm knackered. And I've still got another 4 hills to go.
This is my 20th time. So 1 more, and they give me the quick. And then I'll have a big decision to make whether you keep on doing it or not. Fingers crossed. Cheers!
This is the first event in the 2009 hill racing calendar, and a chance to find out who's on form. Today there's already something of a consensus about who'll be the fastest man, and he's from south of the border.
Rob Jebb, unbeatable on something like this. He loves the rough stuff. He's got legs that could go over anything. The snow's going to slow up a lot of the boys. I would like to see someone new. In Scotland at the moment we have some youngsters who are coming through who are very quick. Rob Jebb though, Rob Jebb, I think he would be the man.
And even at this early stage of the race, Rob's already taken the lead. Twice British champion, the first Briton to become the overall sky running champion, 3 times winner of the Ben Nevis race and 3 times winner here at Carnethy. You'd be forgiven for thinking he's a pro racer, but Rob's real job is being an engineer with BT.
I love the running in the hills and the different terrains, always a different challenge every race. I love meeting all the people. I think there were 500 runners today, which I think is amazing, especially February here on a snowy day, so yeah, it's great.
Now, some people might be watching this and thinking, you know, they sometimes go into the hills, maybe doing a bit of jogging on roads and stuff like that. How different is it?
It's very different to your road, and you know, all levels can just turn out and run on the road, but you need to build up, run on some smaller hills. We have different category races from CB to A. This will be an A race, and start off with a C and a B and build up and spend time training in the hills and run with your local hill running club who will guide you.
But today, right on Rob's heels, is Prasad Prasad. 33 years old, Prasad's a waiter from Glasgow, so if he can hang in there, there's a chance for a Scottish victory. He's got a strong record of success in this sport, but it's the first time he's tried his luck in the Carnethy 5.
It's a friendly bunch, everyone's quite good-natured, and it suits me. I'm all right at it. And it's nice, you get to go nice places, see nice scenery, when you can see. I mean, there's not much looking around, you have to look down at your feet quite a lot to see where you're going. I mean, the snow on the way up was a bit slidey, some of it, but not too bad, and the way down, there wasn't much ice. It was all stuff you could run down on quite well or slide.
And out in the lead for the women is 47-year-old Fiona Maxwell. A member of Northern Ireland's Mourne Running Club, she now lives in Paisley. She's the British over 40s champion and came third in this race last year. Nonetheless, Fiona's a comparative newcomer to the sport.
I only got involved in hill running about 3 years ago. I mean, I'd always walked in the hills, and then my husband suggested that we do a mountain marathon together, and we walked it, and I thought, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to run it. And it just, once you get started, it's just, the hills are beautiful, it takes you to lots of different places, you know, gives you a reason to go out and get fit, and what better place than coming and running in the hills, really.
Which seems to be a sentiment everyone here shares.
It's particularly good when you get to the top of the hill, and there's some nice kind of ridge running to be done where it's just less, it's more undulating rather than going straight up, and those bits are great. You feel fantastic, like you're flying, and then going down is obviously much more fun too.
There's quite a big range of emotions you go through in a fell race, I think. Usually on the uphills there is a question mark over why you're there, why you're doing it, and then you'll get a bit of good running at the top and you'll get into it, a bit of there's always a bit of socialising on the way up. Well, if you are where you are in the pack like me, there's a bit of socialising on the way up, and it's good fun, good atmosphere, yeah.
I always can. On the hills, you can have anything, you know, you've got conditions underfoot are different, you've got different terrain, some is rough, some are smooth. Just, there's so much variety, you know, it's, I suppose that's what's more appealing than anything.
Advantage of it is that it's over more quickly, you tend to move a bit more quickly across the ground and tire yourselves out in a shorter space of time.
I've got 2 young kids, one of them being 6 weeks old, so this is escaping from the house really. Yeah, this is my sanity.
This is your sanity. Some other people go down the pub for a pint, but you go into the hills for a run.
The pub will follow.
How's it going?
A lot of it is the doing of it and the talking about it after, and when we're walking onto the crunchy snow here, just reminds me of different things, like down in the Chevy Chase at Wooler when Mike Davis in the 60s created a track through the snow, and you just followed his blood from the shins.
The very first Carnethy 5 took place 39 years ago, and veteran runner Jimmy Jardine was one of the race founders. Since then, he's competed here every single year.
My biggest laugh here was when I was 7th coming, when it used to finish in the park in Pennycook. I came in and the loudspeaker boomed out, "Check that number." Couldn't believe it was me. At that time, it was sort of a summer sport, the fell running, and I thought it'd be a good idea if everybody met up for a race in February and had a social ceilidh and things like that to welcome the people from down south, and they'd all stay in Pennycook and have a nice hot meal after it in the school, and then it just grew and grew. Now it's kind of difficult to get an entry with it filled up in seconds, really.
The Carnethy 5 is within easy reach of Scotland's major conurbations, but that wasn't the only reason for choosing to hold the race here. It's also a celebration of a famous Scottish victory.
The race celebrates the Battle of Roslin in February 1303, when 8,000 Scots defeated 30,000 Englishmen
And the race starts from a place near Schiehallion, and farmers to this very day, when they're at the ploughing, still find shinbanes in the clay at the place they call Schiehallion.
Oh yeah, it's better. I'm getting there. First hill was a struggle, but it's going well so far.
Originally, they just ran from a park in Pennycook and they just ran to the top of Carnethy and back. And then it was extended to Carnethy and Scold Law, and it lasted like this till 1979. And then in 1980, there was a thick fog on the main road that had to cross, and the police wouldn't let the runners cross the road, so the race was abandoned. But a lot of the runners just ignored, ripped off the numbers, and there was a sort of revolt on the start line, and they ran it anyway. And so after that, very unofficially, so it was like 1980 was an unofficial race.
And now, years later, with the runners following the rules, Desiree's approaching the top of West Kip, the 4th of the 5 Carnethy summits, and it looks like a struggle.
Just got a stitch. One more to go.
She's only had a couple of months to prepare for the race, and the wintry conditions haven't made it easy, so she chose an alternative method of training in her Cairngorm backyard.
I don't know what I've let myself in for this time. Signing up for a 6-mile hill race sounded like a great idea a couple of months ago, and now I'm not quite so sure. There's so much snow around at the moment that even running on the road is hard enough work, let alone going up any big hills. So I decided to get some aerobic fitness training in and make the most of these amazing conditions by taking some Nordic skis out for a cruise around the forest. I've never done a hill race before. I don't really compete generally, so I've got no idea what to expect. I think the reason I don't compete in things is because I really don't want to fail. And in that respect, I think I'm really competitive. Now that I've decided I'm going to do this race, I really don't want to be last. I've realised that it's not actually a good plan to try and run up them as fast as possible because you get to the top and your lungs are just about dead. So I think sort of pacing myself going uphill, trying to just get a really nice, slow, steady rhythm and get my breathing sorted, and then just try and get downhill the other side as fast as possible. But I know there's going to be quite a lot of heather and bog and things to negotiate as well, and also lots of other runners too. So to some extent, the pace that I set is going to be dictated by all of those things as well. The snow is just lovely, it's still really powdery and fluffy, which is great. You can see for miles as well. Absolutely wonderful. It's still freezing though. I know that there's going to be quite a lot of snow, and that's going to make the race a lot tougher in the sense that we'll all be moving much more slowly than we would be otherwise. Just being off tracks as well is much more difficult to run off tracks than it is to run through these forests. Running through forests is easy, you can go for miles and not feel that tired, but when you're racing through bog and heather and over stones and fences and things, it's going to be a lot tougher. Everything scares me. Just get that really lovely gliding feeling on this. It's absolutely perfect. Feels like that's what the skis are made for. It always feels like there's a little bit of not just the pressure you put on yourself, but the pressure that your friends and family put on you to a certain extent, because they want you to do really well, and they also expect you to do really well as well, because if they see you as being quite fit and active and outdoorsy, they just assume that you're going to be able to do these things really easily. So it's almost wanting to just make sure that I don't let other people down as well.
Back in the Pentlands, and for the men, it's still 33-year-old Rob Jebb out in the lead, blazing the trail through the snow. He's closely followed by Prasad as they hurtle down from West Kip to the How. From here, there's a vicious uphill to the summit of Carnethy. This is the low point of the race, both physically and psychologically.
There's very little gaining and losing until you drop down finally from the 4th hill to Glencorse Reservoir and then back up Carnethy. and by then your legs will be really tired, and it'll be a case of a lot of people on the track and not making much progress up, I don't think.
It's hard. It's really hard. I think you go to a road race, a 10k or something. I do a lot of 10ks as well, but you have to race other people to make it hard. In the hills, it's always hard, you know. And that's good.
It's fabulous. I've been running now for 25 years. I've been hill running for about 20 years, and I'm hoping I'll still carry on. There are people here at Bill Gold who's in his 80s and still can get around the hills. I think you can do it longer than you can do road running. It's not as detrimental to your joints. It definitely isn't.
I think it's all about finding your own challenge and your own, whatever it is that inspires you in the hills. For me, I just love the sense of freedom. I love covering a big distance in a short space of time. You know, you get the endorphin high from the exercise. That's just fantastic. I think that the single most amazing thing is you stand on a summit and you look at the ground that you've just covered, and you just sometimes, you know, it's just amazing how much you can cover by running rather than walking.
We'll be back with the runners in the Pentland Hills shortly, but right now I'm off to find out what it takes to be a successful hill runner.
It's getting to that time of year where one should shake off the winter blues and start thinking about getting fit for summer. Well, I'm going to start my training regime with a bike ride around the Pentlands. Oh. One of the great things about the Pentlands is there are wilderness right on the edge of Edinburgh. Just 600 yards down there are houses, lots of them. But here, already, it feels quiet and remote. People come here all year round to walk, to run, to mountain bike, to ski even. Okay, they're not huge in terms of height above sea level, but they cover a vast area, so you can spend as long or as little time as you want here. And if the weather clags in, the best thing is that there, the capital city, is on your doorstep. You can get off pretty quickly. Well, my fitness can certainly do with some fine-tuning, perhaps even a complete overhaul. So I'm enlisting the help of someone who's considerably fitter than me, a contender for the Carnethy 5, Fiona Maxwell. Oh, blimey. New lungs, please.
Tip 1, get off the sofa. Tip 2, find a friend. I just love being out and running on this, on the grass and in amongst all the trees and the dog walkers and the mud and the Highland cows that you can see across there. To begin with, I'd do anything to avoid running through them. And then I just thought, just got to, it's spoiling my route, run through them, and they just stand and look at you actually. Tip 3, have a training plan.
So tell us, how did you get into running in the first place?
In 2003, my husband suggested that we do the Mourne Mountain Marathon together, which is a 2-day event in the Mournes in Northern Ireland. We did the shortest course and we walked for the 2 days. I'm quite competitive, so I thought, no, if I'm going to do this next year again, I want to actually do some training. But I didn't like running at all. We then entered in 2004, thought we'd enter the Glasgow 10K. I thought about 3 days before this event that I ought to actually see if I could run 10K. And I'd done very little running, so I ran 10K on a treadmill on the Wednesday before the race. And so I actually quite enjoyed the race, and it was really after that I started doing a little bit more running, but I still couldn't run for very long. So what I did, I would walk for a bit, run for a bit, walk for a bit, run for a bit, and that was my run. And gradually I just started to extend the periods of running. Tip 4, set yourself a goal.
I've got a very sort of can-do attitude, determined attitude. I mean, I had cancer a few years ago. Back in 2002, I was diagnosed as having ovarian cancer, and
you know, I'm very lucky because normally when ovarian cancer is diagnosed, it's quite advanced, and I was very lucky that it was caught very early. And I think that's made me just think that actually I'm very lucky, you know, to have made it through, and that I just really have to go for things. You know, I think that's why, you know, I'm a can-do person. You know, if somebody suggests something, I'll have a go at it. Tip 5, enjoy it. I just love being out in the open air. I love the views. You know, you go to some fantastic places. I love just the freedom of being in the hills, you know.
So do you get a lot of support from your family over this running?
Yes, I do. My husband's very supportive. He runs as well. And I've got 3 girls who are very tolerant, and they think I'm absolutely mad. Whereas their friends' mums go off shopping on a Saturday morning, I go off running on a Saturday morning. And they think I'm absolutely mad, but they're incredibly supportive and quite proud, I think. I think once I set my mind to do something, then, you know, I will do it. If today my training plan was to do a 10-mile run, I would do a 10-mile run whether it was snowing, raining, sunshine, I would do it. I also want to set my children an example that actually, and I keep saying to them, you know, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. You know, if I can run, anybody can run, honestly.
A day in the hills is a fantastic experience, but for an unfortunate few, things can go wrong. And that's where Scotland's mountain rescue teams come in. Someone whose name has become synonymous with mountain rescue in the Cairngorms is former pharmacist John Allen. Last year he stepped down after over 36 years service, and for 18 of these he was in charge of the team. Now the man who was awarded an MBE for his work with the Cairngorm team has written a book about it. Down from his own walk in the hills, Cameron McNeish headed into the Cairngorms to find out why John volunteered his support over 30 years ago.
In 1971 there was what was known as the Cairngorm disaster, when a group of Edinburgh children went onto the Cairngorm plateau and 6 of them died. And I was reading that and I didn't know much about mountain rescue or what could happen to people in the winter. But following on from that, the chief inspector of the time put an advert in the paper saying that the Cairngorm team were looking for some new recruits and new additions.
Okay, let's just keep it fairly tight then. We're just going on another way. Where's that?
Alistair McCook, the then team leader, took our group of very inexperienced people off into Corrie and Loughlin. It was covered in snow and there was icicles, and I thought, wow, winter wonderland. I said, this is fantastic.
There's a bit I read from your book, and it was about a couple that had gone missing down on Gilcharn at Lagan.
Yeah, that couple, that was quite interesting because they had both been avalanched. They'd gone down to do the Munros down at Drumochter, but the road was blocked and they had gone elsewhere. We didn't know where they'd gone until we found their car down at the Spey Dam at Gilcharn. It was a sad but typical tragedy of a sort we were well used to. They had died together, doing what they wanted to do. Presumably they understood the risks, but that would provide very little comfort for those left behind. By now, we had been on the hill for some hours after a broken night. We were hungry and cold, and rescuers are as prone to hypothermia as the people they search for. It may seem callous, although I hope it will be understood, but we had our lunch there. We ate our sandwiches and drank our coffee, and after that packaged the bodies and took them down. Only one thing remained, and that was to drive the couple's car back to town. It was only on that return journey that any kind of emotional contact occurred between either of us and the couple. The Munros book was still open on the back seat, with their dry clothing lying beside it. Their spare flasks were still warm. The previous morning, they had gone out to spend the day in beautiful surroundings and to enjoy each other's company. Now they were gone. The contrast between our feelings in the actual presence of the couple's bodies on the hill and here in the car with only a few suggestions of their lives was profound. I have this attitude in my mind, well, there, but for the grace of God go I. It could have been me, and I'm really quite happy it wasn't me. And I have a huge sympathy for people that have accidents, because accidents happen, you can't stop them. This is why rescue team leaders, generally speaking, don't criticise.
I mean, although you have a policy of not criticising people who have to be rescued, I do remember one instance where you were quite critical of a group.
Oh, that was a dreadful incident. Well, it was funny, but dreadful. I remember Davy Bergen, the police officer at Aviemore Police Station, phoned me up at 5 o'clock one night. There's a teacher and 39 pupils in the top of Milabuco. I phoned them up on the mobile phone and couldn't get through. The phone line was busy, and after about 20 minutes I did get through. And I heard lots of squealing and screaming and shouting, and I eventually asked if I could speak to the teacher, and I said, look, if you get a map and a compass, I'll give you the bearing to walk down. Of course, they didn't have a map or a compass, so eventually we had to go and rescue them. It didn't seem to be getting through to them at all that they'd done anything wrong. Milabuco might be a safe mountain, but if you go off the wrong side in the mist, they could have all went all over the place. And I felt that really, after the kids' disaster of '71, all these children dying, there maybe was a lesson that people, if they come to the Cairngorm National Park, it's not a walk in the park. They have to be equipped if they go in the hills.
And John Allen's book, Cairngorm John, is available now.
Hi Billy, one more to go. Oh.
Welcome back to the Carnethy 5, where the Pentland Hills are proving a pretty tough test for all competitors, but the leaders are now in the final stretch.
But that final hill's tough, and as the lead runners head for the summit, there's a fight for first position. Prasad's just edged ahead of Rob Jebb. Prasad's works in a restaurant as a waiter, which is maybe hot work, because today he's out with bare arms, the shortest of shorts, and no hat.
Yeah, I was cold at the start, but I'm always too hot when I start running, so vest and shorts is better than overheating when you're racing.
Now, were you having problems with the laces at all?
Yeah, new pair of shoes, and the shoes I normally wear don't have laces. And they both came undone about halfway round.
Right.
And I thought if I stop and tie them up, I might catch up again, so I thought I'll run until one comes off, and they stayed on. So can't complain too much.
Still well in the lead for the women is Fiona Maxwell, so her training tips are obviously paying off. Last year she took 3rd place, but she looks well on her way for the top spot today. An amazing achievement for someone who came late to the sport, but who is, by her own admission, extremely competitive.
I just go out and run as hard as I can, and yeah, just go for it. That's basically what I do. There's no tactics really, it's just go out and, you know, run as hard. I like going uphill, so I just try and push the uphill and then hang in on the downhill.
You're running alongside some of the faster guys as well. Do you get a lot of help, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of comments as well?
Yeah, you do actually. You get, you know, some of them are very good about saying, you know, well done. You get lots of support around the course as well, actually. Lots of people shouting, and, you know, even if they don't know you, they'll shout, you know, come on ladies, you know, particularly the ladies, support the ladies. Good effort. Out in the course, which is good. So, yeah, it's good. But the guys are very good as well, actually. Everybody's very supportive of everybody else.
Fiona's nearest rival is 32-year-old Claire Gordon. She's a doctor based in Edinburgh and took up running 10 years ago. This is her 3rd Carnethy 5. Back in 2007, Claire beat Fiona to the finish line, but in today's race, she's currently around 4 minutes behind.
They're not very good at going downhill, but I'm quite good going uphill, so I always tend to pass folk going uphill. They pass me going downhill, so you actually get a bit of banter, because you're like, hello, I'll see you when you pass me going downhill, and it's good, and yeah, I know them all now, and you get great support.
What is it about hill running that you love so much then?
I think because you definitely have bits where you're really pushing yourself and you're just totally focused on going uphill, and then you get the feeling afterwards of just elation. So, and you get out and about into the middle of nowhere. Like, you know, we're half an hour from Edinburgh, but you could be in the middle of nowhere, and on a good day in the hills, it's just it just totally recharges you, and you totally get away from it. So, I love it.
And as the runners head down from the final summit, Rob Jebb's once again taken the lead. Rob's incredibly strong on the uphills, but descending is a real skill as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I find it harder running downhill. You're still breathing hard and looking where you're putting your feet, and you can have a tumble or whatever. It's just as tough, yeah. There's no rest.
And there's not much wrong with Rob's technique today. He's flying down the hill, through the gate, and it's the final sprint to the finish, with Prasad just seconds behind him. What a race this has been, and another great win for Rob Jebb.
Always seem to go well when I come to Scotland, but tough conditions today. Bit different to Ben Nevis in the summer. So yeah, good.
And also you've won this event twice previously, and then second last year. Good to get another win under your belt.
Yeah, I like this race. It's an early season classic. I've never run it in the snow though. Normally it's windy or something like that, so it was really tricky today. We were all slipping about, especially on the contours, and and the snow was wet, so it was really slippy. But yeah, good.
Very close at the end there. My goodness, when Rob crossed the line, you looked as if you were catching him.
Well, yeah, it was good. He sort of slowed down towards the finish, so I put in a wee burst, but he looked back and saw me and he had enough to get away again. He was probably stronger at the finish anyway. And this is obviously a good start to the season, the Carnethy 5. You must be quite pleased with the way you ran today. Yeah, it was quite comfortable all the way around. Dad not good in the snow, so I just followed and ran in Rob's footsteps, and it was a lot easier that way. But I've never done this race before, so it was good. Good start. It's good fun.
Excellent. Well, good effort today. Well done.
Thanks
and all the best. Cheers.
But for most of the 500 or so runners here today, there's still a long way to go, with that gruelling ascent of Carnethy still ahead of them.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
You can have some pretty soul-searching moments in that gully up to the top of Carnethy. It can be, there's always a lot of spectators in there, and they always seem to be going quicker than you. They'll run along beside you for a bit, and you're like, come on, I should be leaving you behind now. But no, when you get up to the top and you go around the cairn at the top, and then suddenly you come flying over this edge, and there's a little sort of blind summit, and you come over the top of the summit, and then you just plunge through some deep heather, and it's great fun.
Coming off a hill at speed in the heather, it's just the most fantastic feeling in the world. You're totally free, and if you're good at it, and I am, then it's great. You really enjoy it. You've got the battle going up, but you just put that out of your mind. You just concentrate on the person in front, get to the top, take your brain out, go.
I imagine you take a tumble or two.
You do, but it's mainly soft ground. You'll be very, very unfortunate if you're going to bang into a rock or something like that. The main thing is you're always concentrating on 30 feet in front. If you're fortunate that you're not right at the front, then you can see other people fall. So it's great. You think that's not good ground because he's just fallen over. Don't stop. Keep yourself momentum. Keep you flowing. Your arms are all over the place. You're just keeping your balance all the time. And then you're fine.
And down the hill now, and still well in the lead for the women, is Fiona Maxwell. What a great race this has been for her, and it looks like she'll be finishing in the top 50 overall.
So a fantastic race. Well done. How was it out there?
It was very slippery, yeah, but it was very good actually. Yeah, it was good fun, and almost the sort of slushy snow made it slightly easier coming down, because coming down is not my sort of strong point. At one point there was a really steep bit, and we were just sliding on the bottoms, so that was good fun actually. Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, it was enjoyable.
And here comes Claire Gordon, throwing herself down the final slopes to the gate, across that muddy, sticky marshland to the finish line. The second woman here to make it back.
Claire, another fantastic run. Well done.
Oh, thank you. No, it was a good run. A hard race in difficult conditions. It's such a different race. Like, I've done it 3 times, and every time I've done it, it's been so different. And it was really good fun. Like, coming down a bit on your bum is great, and it takes your mind off what you're doing. So I actually really enjoyed the conditions. It just made it nice and varied, and I quite like that when I'm running anyway. So it was great.
But how's our own Deziree getting on? Like most of the racers, she's just reaching the summit of Carnethy. It's been a hard slog, but she's still in the top half of the field.
Oh my God, it's absolutely burning. That's so knackering. That last hill's an absolute pig. I've got a real stitch. I'm just going to run down here as fast as I can. Oh, it's nearly over. Thank you, Marshall. Downhill. Thank goodness. Come on, Deziree, speed it up. Right, come on, Deziree, go. So glad it's downhill. Oh, it's knackering.
It's 1 hour 15 into the race. Deziree said she was looking for a time around about 1:30, and we've just heard that she's approaching the finish, which is absolutely incredible if it's true. She's not far away. Amazing. Well done. Well done. Well, we reckon.
What's the time?
We reckon you're inside 118. I think you're less than 118, probably around about 116. That was amazing. And you almost ran an extra bit at the end there.
I lost a glove.
Oh.
And my hat.
Oh no. So how was it?
It was okay actually. After the first hill, I just got a really nice rhythm. And it was fine. It was really snowy, so I was just sliding about everywhere. I was really glad I had these shoes.
One of them's undone, by the way.
I know, it's been like that since the top of Carnethy. The worst bit is when you're dropping down. It's great running downhill, but you know you've got to make up all that height that you've lost. So coming back up to the top of Carnethy is just a real pig.
That's an amazing time. That's an amazing time. I'm
quite
sorry it sounds
happy.
so surprised. Because you were saying 1:30, you wanted to do it in 1:30 or inside, but
Well,
you smashed that.
I'm quite pleased given that there's so much snow and how slidey it is. It's kind of one step up, two steps back a lot of the time. So coming downhill, some of it's bum slide. So, yeah.
And confirmation of those winning results here at the Carnethy 5. Andrew Simmons came in third with a time of 53 minutes and 57 seconds. In second place, it's Prasad Prasad with a time of 53.09, and just 7 seconds faster, Rob Jebb took top spot with a time of 53.02. First for the women was Fiona Maxwell with a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Second place went to Claire Gordon with a time of 1.07.43. And our very own heroine Deziree Wilson came in 21st out of 113 women with a time of 1 hour, 17 minutes and 9 seconds.
That's good. It's really good. I've got a real buzz now.
So we'll sign you up for this one. I'm just going to make a wee note to myself. Never take Deziree on in any adventure show challenge because she's going to beat me and everything she takes part in. Well
I
done.
didn't really do any of the summits.
Actually, did you do any of them? Just go up to the
I
up
just
there and
went
run
up,
back.
yeah. In an hour and 20.
You did well.
Well, that's it for this month's adventure show, which is the last in the present series. But we will be back in a couple of months with a brand new series bringing you all the best outdoor action. But for those of you who can't wait that long, we've a special programme coming up about a woman who's paralysed from the chest down who takes on an heroic canoe journey in Patagonia.
Such a wild place. I've never paddled anywhere as wild as this, where you don't see a boat for days, you don't see any sign of civilization, nothing. So it's very much more in the forefront of your mind how vulnerable you are and how remote you are.
I might need a hand just to get onto the boat.
I've got a friend who calls himself a jelly and refers to people with disabilities as crips and wobblies.
A bit tired, it has to be said. But at first, I thought I wouldn't do anything again. I just thought I'll have to just get used to living in a world of sort of concrete and tarmac and buildings and ramps and stuff.
It's funny how when you become paralysed, how jealous you become of other paralysed people. So I remember being in the hospital and someone's kind of having a hard time, but you think, well, you're only paralysed from the waist down, look at you, because you can sit up or you can sit without a big back support and things. So it makes a really big difference where you're paralysed from as to what kind of level of function you've got. Although nobody would ever say, oh yeah, it's fantastic to be blind or it's fantastic to be in a wheelchair and not be able to walk. Of course it's not, but it also gives you so much in another way that it becomes quite hard to imagine your life without that anymore, and does feel like a real gift sometimes.
Join us for that if you can. Until then, bye for now.